As those of you who follow the EU developments, you may know that at EU policy level, there is an increasing recognition on the importance of combining services for marginalized groups in a community-based location as one-stop shop multidisciplinary teams. These so-called community lifelong learning centers engage actively a wide range of professionals, such as social and health services, youth services, outreach care workers, psychologists, guidance specialists, youth workers, local authorities. So such a model allows for a more flexible, more accessible approach, which aims to engage socioeconomically excluded groups. Marginalized young people tend to distrust any support coming from public authorities and very rarely directly contact specialized services. However, any efforts towards their re-engagement in education and training or in the labor market are likely to fail if not accompanied by measures to tackle issues in other areas of their lives. This multidisciplinary approach within community lifelong learning centers helps overcome fragmentation of services and allows to establish a continuum of strategic interventions in these services. So within this context, these individuals and their families feel at ease as they are offered a functional alternative to formal education. So when offered non-formal education options, which is also the focus of today's occasion, individuals feel comfortable and may build a trustful relationship with the professionals involved. They may increase their self-esteem and motivation to learn. And as you may know, these are important ingredients for reactivating those in need. Try to go to the next slide, but doesn't work again. Okay, so since 2019, CEDEFOP, in cooperation with the Lifelong Learning Platform and the Education Disadvantaged Centre in Ireland, made a systematic effort to raise awareness on the need of such community lifelong learning centres and join their forces to bring new evidence on their role. In May 2019, CEDEFOP and LLLP organized a high-level policy learning forum, bringing together key stakeholders to explore the potential of community lifelong learning centers as one-stop shop for preventing early school leavers from disconnecting. Brikena, you may remember, the event was hosted by the Romanian presidency of the Council and gave really a great visibility to existing good practices of community lifelong learning centers. A few months later, in August 2019, we published together a briefing paper implementing a holistic, it's on your right in the screen, the one called Implementing a Holistic Approach to Lifelong Learning, Community Lifelong Learning Centers as a Gateway to Multidisciplinary Support Team. And that was really also a good way to bring together evidence from good practices, raise awareness, and inspire policymakers. In that event that I just mentioned to you, we at CEDEFOP launched the new edition of CEDEFOP's VET Toolkit for Tackling Early Leaving. This is a one-stop shop online platform offering a plethora of resources to policymakers and practitioners who aim to tackle early leaving from education training. And as you may imagine, although it is primarily designed for vocational education and training, as we are CEDEFOP, it also offers several intervention approaches that have been conceptualized with a holistic perspective in mind and can be easily implemented by community lifelong learning centers. A few years later, in 2021, sorry, we're here in the second toolkit, acknowledging at CEDEFOP the specific characteristic and needs of those who are not in employment, education, or training, the so-called needs, we launched at CEDEFOP a second VET toolkit specifically for empowering needs. So I wish to invite you to have a look to the resources offered in these toolkits And you will see that within the needs toolkit, there is a risk factor section where one may see that often education is only one among the many challenges in young people's lives. So those at risk of becoming needs, of becoming inactive, of becoming socially excluded, have complex and multiple needs. They may have health, psychosocial, legal, or housing problems, among many, many other issues that you may see in the slide. So if we take a closer look to see who and how many are actually at risk in Europe, we will see that 90.9%, almost 1 out of 10 young people are early school leavers, meaning they haven't qualified in upper secondary education. 13.1% of young women and 10.5% of young men aged 15 to 29 in the European Union are needs. And 128 million are low-skilled adults in the EU27, Iceland, Norway, and the UK. This astronomical number, it's almost represents half of the adult population in these countries. And when I talk about low-skilled adults, this is a highly heterogeneous population comprising people with very different characteristics and needs, including people with low education, with low digital skills, low cognitive skills, or medium-high education, but who are at risk of skill loss and obsolescence. Those at risk, as you may well know, often accumulate several vulnerabilities and are furthest away from the labor market, as I just said, or if they are employed, they are in precarious jobs and they are at a higher risk of unemployment. But also they benefit the least from education opportunities. As you may see in the graph on the right of this slide, their participation in further education and training is considerably below average, and it has not grown a lot over recent years. So as you saw, levels of education are associated with, the low levels of education are associated with economic and social consequences, not only for the individuals, which in our discourse, I think is at the center of the attention, but it's also for their families and the whole economy and society. On the other hand, investing in education and in lifelong learning is linked to higher economic and social returns. Thus, in my view, empowering low-educated and early school leavers by a multidisciplinary and whole community approach must be seen as a priority, especially nowadays that employment and the economy overall is becoming skills intensive. So thank you very much for your attention, and I'm available for questions at the end of the session.